It's a Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. Going to be talking about one last free agent signing for the 49ers. I think it's something that's absolutely intriguing and something that could definitely happen, especially with Zadarius Smith getting traded over the weekend from the Minnesota Vikings to the Cleveland Browns. There's definitely still a market for some of these guys that are out there. Now, the question will be, are the 49ers interested in? I want to go through the depth chart of the 49ers and then go through the players still available and just see, is there one last signing available for the 49ers? We know they freed up money with the Christian McCaffrey restructure. They have signed all their draft picks. They've signed all their undrafted free agents. They are a 90-man roster, of course, 91 with Alfredo Gutierrez and his exemption, but they've got all the players that they need. But do they need to add extra players and a prolific pass rusher opposite of Nick Bosa? I think that comes into question, especially when you hear what new defensive coordinator Steve Wilks said about Drake Jackson, about his inconsistencies in year one. That was something he saw on film. And I think for most who watch Drake Jackson during the season, you would see flashes that make you get super excited about what his potential could be in the 49ers defense. But then you also saw those inconsistencies, not just in pass rush, but especially against the run and setting the edge, that make you question whether he could be a 3-down rusher in this league. Now, the 49ers have added depth in the offseason, bringing in Clelin Ferrell from the Raiders, and Clelin Ferrell could easily play base downs as your defensive end, and then they could bring in Drake Jackson for obvious pass downs. But is that exactly what you want? Do you want somebody like Clelin Ferrell on early downs who potentially could struggle getting to the quarterback? Do I think he'll have an improvement playing in this system with Kasarik compared to what he had playing in Las Vegas? Absolutely. I do think he could have some improvement. But you're looking for somebody that's going to take some of the attention away from Nick Bosa. You went and got Javon Hargrave, and him and Eric Armstead are going to man the middle. And, of course, Hargrave gets double-teamed more than any interior defensive lineman in the league not named Aaron Donald. So the 49ers definitely have the talent there. Is that enough for Drake Jackson to be able to get home? I think that's a question. I think I saw him as not a 3-down defensive end in the league right now, and I think after hearing what Steve Wilks had to say, I think that kind of just supported that statement. But Drake's a very talented player, and I do think he has the potential to be a big-time starter in this league. I just think he might be a year away. I think him in obvious pass downs make a lot of sense. I think him playing over guards on third down make a lot of sense because of his speed, and that's where he had a lot of success last year. His sacks came when he was on the interior, and a lot of times when a quarterback was trying to move outside the pocket, he was able to get to them because of his extreme athletic ability. But he has been, and he has some ability. So let's talk about the 49ers edge rushers that they're going to have. Of course, we talked Drake. They brought back Kerry Hyder, so they have him. But Hyder was an interesting guy last year where he played outside and inside. Hyder, good against the run, but definitely lacks the bend and lacks the ability to consistently get it to the quarterback. 2020, he had a great season, but if you go back and look at the sacks, the coverage on the back end was so good, it allowed him the time to be able to get there. He's a couple of years older, and I wonder exactly what he's going to provide off the edge. They went out and they signed Austin Bryant, former Clemson star, 4th-round pick, has been with the Detroit Lions. He had a pretty good season in 2021, but he was the old regime player, so Detroit ended up moving away from him. The 49ers went and got him. He's a guy that's got a lot of size. He's almost 280 pounds, but still has pretty good speed and bend around the outside. He's definitely got a lot of work to do, but Kasarik could get something out of him. But we're talking about a depth piece here and not someone that could potentially start opposite of Bosa. So I think when you're looking at defensive ends, those guys plus Clelin Ferrell that we mentioned earlier, and then Alex Barrett. So there's not a lot of depth there. Last year, the 49ers had huge decisions to make. They were going to release defensive ends because they were just so talented. They had Arden Key. They had Jordan Willis. Not Arden Key. They had Charles Omenihu. Went 2 years back for Arden Key on that one. But, yeah, they had a lot of talented players. But let's look at the players that are still available in free agency off the edge. And I think, you see Leonard Floyd, and he's exactly what the 49ers normally do. Of course, we know the 49ers added Robert Beal, and Leonard Floyd is that sort of player, a speed guy off the edge who's an outside linebacker in a 3-4 who can set the edge okay. I think he could somewhat get better at that. I think Beal is definitely going to add something to this team. I just wonder if he's a year away from him and Drake Jackson just completely taking over the opposite side of Bosa. I think that's what the 49ers would absolutely love. But Leonard Floyd available. Frank Clark, I don't know if he fits the 49er way. I think that one is probably not going to happen, but he's still available as well. And then you talk about Robert Quinn. 2 seasons ago, he had 18 sacks for the Chicago Bears. So this is a guy with extreme amount of talent who's still sitting out there and available that the 49ers could potentially bring in. And one thing we all know is supply and demand. And there is a huge supply of edge rushers. And there's not as much of a demand right now. A lot of teams have drafted. A lot of teams already have players that can make plays. So some of these players that are still available are going to have to take less money. That's why it starts getting into the wheelhouse of the 49ers being able to pick up some players. Yannick Ngakoue, we know the 49er fans have been talking about Ngakoue the whole entire time, and he's still available. There has been reports that he's seeking a double-digit contract. Same goes with Jadeveon Clowney. It seems like he's the master of one-year deals worth double-digit money. So, I mean, if those guys are holding out for money, those guys could be training camp, maybe even towards the end of training camp as they're waiting for players to potentially get injured. But those guys are still available. Matthew Ioannidis, he's still available. He was with Carolina last year, so there's that familiarity with Steve Wilkes. He has not went anywhere. A guy that I have my eye on, Marcus Golden, because he played at Arizona. He's an outside linebacker, but he's a speed rush guy off the edge, which I think the 49ers could definitely use. Would he be a 3-down player playing in the 49ers system? I think that's the question when you're talking about who the 49ers bring in, because I do think they think Drake Jackson could be that kind of guy. You got Melvin Ingram that's still available. I mean, Justin Houston, Carlos Dunlap. There's just so many players available on the free agent market. And that's why I think the 49ers are not done. I do think they have one move left in them. Who is it going to be? I'm not sure. But I think they're going to wait until the price is right. They can easily free up more money with the Nick Bosa extension. And I think that money they would love to have rolled over. But I think getting one of these guys on a cheap rate could be exactly what they end up doing. You monitor during OTAs where Drake Jackson is. Now that it's past May 2nd, you can sign these guys and it doesn't go against your compensatory rule. So then it doesn't hurt the compensatory picks you're going to get. So you don't lack in that part. So now it's really about just finding the right fit, finding the right player at a price. I guarantee the 49ers have reached out to these guys and had conversations. They know where they're sitting at, and they'll tell these guys, hey, this is where we're at. Go out. If you can find something else, we understand. But, hey, we're going to be here if you want to come back to this number. And at some point, one of these players might decide that, hey, I want to play for the 49ers. I want to play with these other great players and be a part of this potential championship roster and then go out. Because if you just look at the history of the players that have played for the 49ers and then went out and got big contracts, it is very evident. Arden Key just got his second big contract since playing for the 49ers, making decent money with Jacksonville and then moving on and getting another good contract. Charles Omenihu went from being traded for a 6th-round pick to getting double-digit money from the Kansas City Chiefs. Samson Ebukam had a pretty good contract. Now he's got an even better contract. So you're seeing these players come into Kaceric's system and then leave and financially get supported. And I think that one of these guys is going to end up seeing that. Now, it could be an older guy just seeking to get a championship, or it could be one of these guys that's like, hey, I still have a lot of talent. You know, I'm still a good football player. Like someone like Leonard Floyd might be like, hey, man, why am I not able to cash in? I'm only 30 years old. You know, you can give me a shot. So I think the 49ers have one more free agent signing in them. Who it's going to be, I think, is a question on who's willing to take the least amount of money to come in. But I think them getting a guy to take some of the pressure off Jake Jackson would be nice. Now, if you bring in somebody and Drake beats them out in training camp, no harm, no foul. Your rotation got better because you can upgrade. We talked about the depth right now. Right now, your number one guys coming in are Clelin Ferrell and Kerry Hyder. I'm not sure that, I like Clelin Ferrell, but I'm not thinking he's going to be dominant in pass rush situations. You might want him off the field. Yes, you got so much better in the defensive line, but I think Philadelphia and the 49ers have proven you want continuous waves of guys coming at you. I do believe Austin Bryant could potentially develop into something playing for Chris Kasarik, but I'm not sure he's there yet. I want to see him at training camp and see what they're working on when they get there. His first step, that explosiveness getting across the line of scrimmage, I think is something I'm still excited to see when we get to training camp. But I think before we get there, the 49ers can make a move and bring in an edge rusher with one last free agent signing. So many great players available. But who will it be? I think that's the bigger question. But it's just something that I think is in the realm of possibilities for the 49ers. You are going for a championship. You have the potential. You know what your schedule is going to look like. You know what your roster is built like now that you're through the draft. Yes, you have a young stud like Drake Jackson. He's got some improvement from his inconsistencies. You brought in Robert Beal, but can you expect a rookie to come in and start opposite of Bosa and be able to hold up? I don't think so. I think you've got to have another veteran, and I definitely think you want to ensure you have a veteran that's more explosive and more talented than Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant. So I think the 49ers do make a move. They bring in one of these veteran guys on a cheap deal, and I think eventually one of these guys will be there. There's just not enough spots for these guys to land and get the money that they're looking for. Somebody takes a cheap rate. Who's it going to be? I think that's going to be fun. Let me know who you think the 49ers should sign. And should it be one of these edge rushers? Or should it be a different position? Do you see another positional need the 49ers need to go address with a free agent that's still out there? I think it's a good question to have, but I think as salaries come down, some of these players are willing to sign for league minimums. Last year, Jason Verrett signed for a league minimum contract coming in, and you can sometimes get these players to do that as they're looking to prolong their career. But will the 49ers do it? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really curious. And if you were going to sign one of these edge rushers, who would it be? Thanks so much for watching. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. It goes a lot to help me and help the channel. And we're going to have a lot more content coming out pretty soon. So until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.